I started keeping a business journal in 2015, not because someone told me to, but because I kept making the same mistakes and I couldn't figure out why. I sat down one evening and wrote out every decision I had made in the last 3 months, and what I noticed stopped me cold. I was choosing speed over clarity every single time. Not occasionally, every time. It was right there on paper. That notebook became a business journal, and I've kept one ever since for over 10 years, and more decisions than I can count. This video is really about what I've learned from that practice. In my second year in business, I ran the numbers at year end and could not point to any meaningful progress on any of the goals I had set in January. I had been busy, I had been working hard, but I had been reacting to whatever was in front of me, not steering toward where I needed to go. That is the trap. Motion that feels like progress but isn't. And if you are running your own business, you have no manager, no performance review, no one asking you the tough questions, unless you create that structure yourself. Business journaling is how you create it. Business journaling isn't about processing feelings. It's not morning pages, it's not gratitude lists. It's structured thinking on paper, applied to the specific challenges of running a business. The distinction matters. Personal journaling is inward-facing. You are processing emotion. Business journaling is outward-facing and analytical. You are asking, what is happening in my business? Why is it happening? And what should I do about it? They serve completely different purposes. This video is about the business one. If you have ever worked for a company, you probably had structure built in. Performance reviews, check-ins with your manager, team meetings, maybe someone asking you tough questions whether you liked it or not. When you run your own business, none of that exists unless you create it. And most entrepreneurs never create it. They move from one problem to the next, learning slowly because they never stop long enough to extract the lesson. Business journaling creates that structure. It forces you to look at your business from the outside, even for 15 minutes a week. That distance is where clarity lives. In my businesses and in coaching others, I have seen consistent results in 6 specific areas, and I'm going to walk you through all 6. Big decisions do not get better from more time spent thinking about them in your head. They get better when you write them down. In my experience, writing a decision out does one of 2 things. It reveals that you already know what to do but are afraid to do it. Or it reveals that you are missing critical information and are not actually ready to decide. Both are useful. After I started writing decisions down before making them, I began reviewing those entries 6 months later. What I found was undeniable. My worst calls had one thing in common. I made them fast, under pressure, without writing a word. Entrepreneurs like to say they learn from failure. Most don't. They move on. They forget the details that actually contain the lesson. 6 months later, they make the same mistake wearing a different hat. A post-mortem entry after every significant outcome takes 15 minutes. What was the goal? What happened? Why do I think it went that way? What would I do differently? This benefit is invisible for the first 6 months. It becomes the most valuable thing the journal produces after a year or more. You start seeing patterns that were completely invisible from inside. Your best clients share specific characteristics. You consistently underestimate implementation time by similar margins. The months you feel most overwhelmed correlate directly with months you skipped your weekly planning. Every quarter, before I plan the next, I spend 30 minutes in my journal reviewing the last 90 days. What did I accomplish? What did I commit to and not deliver? What changed in my market? What did I avoid that I should face? Then I write the 3 most important things I need to accomplish in the next quarter. Not 10, 3. That number forces a prioritization that a longer list never does. For problem solving. When I'm stuck on something, I open my journal and write about it. Not to document the problem, but to think through it on paper, where I am forced to complete my thoughts instead of letting them circle. Large companies have institutional memory because they have documented histories and teams that carry knowledge forward. Solopreneurs often have none of that. Everything lives in the founder's head, and the founder's head is optimistic and selective about what it keeps. Your business journal is your institutional memory. It holds what actually happened, not what you remember wanting to happen. That difference matters more than most entrepreneurs realize until they have been keeping a journal long enough to go back and read it. You do not need a system with 15 components. You need a handful of entry types you actually use. Weekly planning. Every Sunday evening or Monday morning, before you open your inbox, write the one thing that would make this week a success. Not three things. 1. Post-meeting capture. After any significant conversation, take 5 minutes to write what actually happened. Project post-mortem. When any significant project wraps, write about it before you move on. This is where institutional memory is built. Quarterly review. 4 times a year, 30 minutes reviewing the previous quarter and setting 3 priorities for the next 90 days. Problem solving. When you are stuck, write until something shifts. Pre-decision. Before any significant decision, write the choice, the options, your expectations, what you're missing and what your gut says. Then decide and set a 90-day review reminder. I've made every mistake possible in how I've maintained this practice for over 10 years. The mistakes worth saving you from. Start with one entry type, not all of them. Pick the one that would immediately help your business most. For most entrepreneurs, that's weekly planning. Do that one thing for 4 weeks before you add anything else. Make it regular, not rigid. I journal about business pretty much daily now. Some weeks more, some less, but what matters is that it is a recurring part of how I work. Handwrite if you can. I know typing is faster, but that is also the problem. Handwriting slows you down in a way that produces more careful thinking. Review regularly. Most people write in their business journal but never read it. That is where most of the value gets left behind. Set aside an hour at the end of each quarter to read back through your entries. I won't promise you a specific revenue outcome from keeping a business journal. That is not how this works. What I can tell you from over 10 years of doing this, and from watching other entrepreneurs who do it seriously, you will stop making the same mistakes again and again. Your decisions get faster and more confident because you have a record to reference. You learn at a fundamentally different rate, and you gain honest clarity about what's actually working versus what you want to believe is working. I look back at journals from 10 years ago, and I can trace exactly how I got from there to here, the decisions that mattered, the insights that shifted everything, the moments I learned something critical. That record isn't a trophy, it's a map of how you think and how your business works. Don't set up a system. Don't buy a special notebook yet. Open whatever you have and do these 3 things this week. Entry 1. Today, write down the single biggest decision or challenge you're facing right now. Spend 15 minutes on it. Entry 2, this Sunday or Monday morning. Write the one thing that would make this week a success. Run the week against it. Entry 3, end of this week. Look back at what you wrote on Monday. What happened? What didn't? Then write 2 honest sentences about it. That's a business journaling practice. Everything else builds from there. In the description below, there is a link to a free 30-day business journal prompts to get you started thinking about your business. Write about it, learn from it, and build the best business you can. Thanks for listening.